So hello there guys. As usual with these kind of sessions, we're going to start with a bit of a do now for you guys to kind of get you thinking a bit about science, kind of thinking about the stuff that you would have looked at in the previous session. So I would like you to pause the video and spend a couple of minutes on these questions for me. You will then find the answers just on here. These are all words that you should now be familiar with from our previous session. So give yourselves a couple of minutes here now, just pause the video and correct your answers. In this session today, we are going to be able to describe the function of cell organelles, and you will also be able to explain why plant cells have different organelles. So those are our objectives for this session. It would be a good idea today to have a pen and a pencil to make any kind of notes from this video. There is a bit of a wall of text on the next slide, which I'll kind of break down with a bit of an animation for you. What I would like you to do is to pause the video now, get yourself a pen and a pencil, or a pencil and some paper, and draw for me an animal cell and a plant cell, and give yourself loads of space to label and then add in a bit of information on there. So pause the video, draw me a plant and an animal cell, and then we'll annotate it. On this slide, I'm going to flick up each organelle and a description of what it is for, its function and its job. You would be a good idea to add this information onto your diagram, so you've got it all in one place and it's a bit of a practice and a refresher. Okay, so the first organelle we're going to focus on is the nucleus. Now in the last session, you should know that's normally the largest part of our cells and it stands out. Now the nucleus contains all of the genetic material and controls the cell. So things like your DNA are kept within the nucleus of the cell. So it's got an important job. The cell membrane surrounds the cell and controls what enters and exits that cell. So it's a little bit like the wall and the gates of a castle, controls what is allowed in and out of that cell. Now pause this video at any point in order to jot down these and add them on. Okay, there are a couple that we need to get to grips with. The cytoplasm is a jelly-like substance where chemical reactions take place. So normally if you see a diagram, it's the empty space within inside of that cell. Now it's not empty, it's this jelly-like substance, but you can't really see it in a cell or through a microscope because it's transparent. It's mostly made up of water. Jelly-like substance. The mitochondria are essential for cells. They are super important because they're where a reaction takes place. Aerobic respiration is required to produce energy from glucose. Now you'll have heard of glucose before. You should have done some things on respiration as well, this idea of production of energy at the mitochondria. Without these mitochondria, cells cannot produce energy, so therefore the cell can't survive. Sometimes you can tell the job of a cell just by looking at the organelles that it's made up from. So if you notice that there are lots and lots of mitochondria within a cell, that can give you an idea that it needs a lot of energy to do something. So for example, a muscle cell needs a lot of energy in order to move, to pull, to kind of get your body doing the important things like moving. It will need a lot of energy for that. So there'll be lots of mitochondria there. Really important. Ribosomes are the site of protein synthesis within cells. Now, synthesis just means that you're making something or producing something. So the ribosomes produce a lot of the protein that kind of builds you up and builds all the structures, things like bones and muscles and stuff like that. Okay, so ribosomes are really important. They help produce the proteins for us. We're now going on to some that are exclusive to plant cells. The chloroplast contains chlorophyll, so very similar sounding word there, so be careful with our spellings. They contain chlorophyll and are found in plant cells. They are the site of photosynthesis, a reaction that uses light to produce glucose. Chlorophyll is a green pigment. It's what gives plants the green colour. So if any part of the plant that's green will have chloroplast within those cells. Okay, they do photosynthesis, which is the way that plants produce their own glucose. They make their own glucose to use in respiration. Okay, so chloroplast is super important for plants. The cell wall is used to keep the cells rigid and offers support to maintain the shape. It is made up of cellulose. Now that's an important little bit there. There is a question that asks you what cell walls in plants are made from, so keep an eye out for that. They are made up of cellulose. So the cell wall is quite important. It helps give that structure and support and keeps the shape of a plant. You'll notice that in most plants, they don't have anything like a strong structure to keep their support, like bones or anything like that. The cell wall, therefore, is really important to keep that structure and that shape. And the last one is the permanent vacuole, and it contains something called cell sap. Again, that might come up in an educated question later on. Okay, so cell sap. The main function is to provide structural support to the cell to maintain the shape. So again, we know that plants don't have anything like bones to give them support or structure to keep their shape. So the cell wall and permanent vacuole work together to kind of keep that solid shape of a plant. It's mostly made up of water. The permanent vacuole, that cell sap, is mostly water, which is why you'll notice if you don't water the plants for a long time, they start to wilt and kind of droop. That's because the vacuole isn't as full as it should be and not giving that support. So you can see the effects of what happens if they didn't have that vacuole. They wouldn't be able to keep themselves upright. So that's a really important part of the plant. Now, by now, you should have been pausing the video throughout and adding these labels onto a diagram that's in front of you. Okay, so if you've not quite finished that yet, I'd like you to do that now. Add each of these bullet points onto a diagram, labeling the important organelles within those cells. Now, this is just a quick little recap of the animal cell and the plant cell, kind of listing those organelles so you can kind of see them quite clearly. It's not the most detailed picture, kind of took that off Google there, and it kind of is quite blurry, but it's the best one I could get rather than drawing one from scratch. But it's kind of an idea of something that your diagram should look like. Each part should be labelled, and you'll notice that the ones that are exclusive to plant cells have been highlighted green to kind of show you that they are different and they're not found within animal cells as much or at all. So that kind of gives you a little bit of an overview there, just recapping the kind of shapes and the structures in case you need something to kind of copy for your diagrams. Now, the first activity I'd like you guys to have a look at is on the Dropbox. There should be this card sort activity that I'd like you to kind of complete. You kind of just have to match them up. So it's kind of up to you how you do that. If you've got a printed copy, cut it out, match it up how you want. If not, just kind of give them numbers and kind of match them up that way, either through colouring them in or adding little arrows or ABC or 1, 2, 3, whatever kind of matches them up best for you. The answers will be on the next page of that document. Okay, so try not to skip too far ahead. You don't want to kind of spoil any of the answers. You want to have a proper good go at that. It will be a organelle, a picture of it, and then the function, its job. So have a go at matching those up for me, please. The last activity for you would be an exam question. Again, that should be on the Dropbox for you to have a go at, as well as an answer set as well to get you the answers and mark that. So take a couple of minutes to have a look at that question and complete that for me, please, and then mark your work. That kind of finishes this segment of cell biology. We'll look at some examples of specialized cells and stuff in future sessions. But to kind of leave you with, each organelle has a specific job that helps the organism to survive, grow, and reproduce. Okay, that word function is quite important. It comes up sometimes in exam questions. Function just means job, and each organelle has a specific function. There are then some questions on Educate that I'd like you to complete using information from this. So it might be a good idea to look back through this and just make sure you're pretty comfortable with the stuff we've covered today. Thank you very much, guys.